And now, from Louisville, Kentucky, the horse capital of the world and sports junkies' finest, giving you wagering advice and sports analysis. It's On the Switch with your host, Gino G.
Welcome back, everybody, to On the Switch Show. I'm your host, Gino G. This is part 1 of 2, talking about Pimlico Preakness Day, Saturday, May the 19th, 14 race card. We'll cover the first 7 races on this part. We'll have a second part, the last 7 races, which will culminate in race 13, the $1.5 million Preakness Stakes featuring Kentucky Derby winner Justify. Saturday from Pimlico will be wet. There will be plenty of scratches, I'm sure. Unfortunately, especially after watching yesterday's races on the turf, it seemed incredible that these horses didn't fall over. Jockeys were able to control the horses on the turf. I will be surprised if they run on the turf, although every single thing that I have read, that I have looked up on, it sounds like they are going to try and run all the turf races on the turf here Saturday, Preakness Stakes. Again, we'll talk about the actual Preakness Stakes, race 13 on part 2. But here in part 1, we'll talk about the first 7 races, first post, 11:30 a.m. Let's go ahead and dive right on in. Race 1, allowance 52,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And we'll start this card off with a really chalky single. That being the number 1 Auto Strayed at 6-5 on the morning line. This one for Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez. This one broke his maiden at first asking, then just barely missed last out at Keeneland against a much tougher allowance company and horses that day. The 102 speed figure at first asking, then the 91 last out. Both will be seriously tough in this spot. There's not much value here in the first. Unfortunately, we will be singling, and the only horse we will be using is the number 1 Auto Strayed at 6-5 on the morning line in the first race on Preakness Saturday, May the 19th. That is the number 1, allowance 52,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. We will take Auto Strayed 6-5 on the line, the number 1. Race 2, allowance 52,000, going 1 mile 1/16 on the turf. Again, for something like this, I think stake races later in the card could possibly stay on the turf because they want to keep as many entries as possible. An allowance group going 52,000, going 1 mile 1/16, I do not think will be on the turf, and I handicapped it that way. So we did have our top selection as the number 6, Sophia's an Angel. This one comes out of one of the better races that anybody in this field faced, running a stakes race at Laurel in previous start off the layoff, gets a much softer field and a class relief today. Still, in that mediocre effort, got an 85 speed figure for that try. I think second off the layoff, second run this year, this one is primed for a big effort today. I will also note, jockey-trainer combo have teamed up 9 times, winning 22% of those efforts. That is the 6, Sophia is an Angel. Number 10, Conjuncture, is a main track only horse that I think will have to use pick 4s, pick 5s, whatever you might be playing, doubles, especially if it's off the turf and on the main track and this one draws in. This is an angle that I think all handicappers use. If perhaps a horse in a turf race is selected for just main track only, they are usually pretty strong. So we'll also use this one. The 82 speed figure, 4 back in the mud at Laurel, places this one well in this spot, and I think has a big chance. That is the 10, Conjuncture. Number 4, Contrarian, will get a look from us as well here. This one broke its maiden 2 back at Tampa, going 1 mile, getting a 92 speed figure that day. Came back in an event where this one was overmatched in an allowance optional claimer 75,000 at Keeneland. Gets a softer field, has tactical speed, loves the dirt as opposed to the turf, and out of Lemon Drop Kid, there is no reason why this one shouldn't like the off-going. At 9-2, I think this one should be tough as well. So in the second, here at Pimlico, Saturday, Preakness Day, race 2, allowance 52,000, runners going 1 mile 1/16, scheduled for the turf, which we think will probably be run on the dirt. The number 6, Sophia is an Angel, is our top selection. Number 10, Conjuncture. The main track only horse will get our second choice. Number 4, Contrarian in third. Race 3, Optional Claimer 25,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Again, another single, another short price. Number 1, Parade of Nations will get my shot in the dark in this event. Although been running against weaker competition, this one has 2 wins at Pimlico in 2 tries, 1 win on the off-going in 1 try, and loves the distance, being 5 for 9 hitting the board. Will need to have a repeat performance of Last Out, that being a 97 speed figure at Laurel, but if so, watch out. I know it's 12-1 on the morning line, but there is no chance this horse is 12-1. Quite possibly, if perhaps due to scratches, this horse could actually go into the gate as the favorite. This is something that happened yesterday. There was a couple of horses that were 10, 12, 15, 20, 30-1 that went off at short prices because there were so many scratches. I will take a shot as a single on the number 1, Parade of Nations, 12-1 on the morning line, and the third, the Optional Claimer 25,000, going 6 furlongs. Race 4 is another Optional Claimer 25,000, this time going 5 furlongs on the dirt. Another race that I think, just because of how cheap it is and they don't exactly want to ruin the turf course for some of the stakes race, I think this one will be taken off the turf. And again, we did handicap for that. So I used my top selection as the number 3, May tie one on. 5-2 on the line. This one is the only horse in the field to have run a 100 plus speed figure this year. All 4 starts this year on the grass should be more than good enough to be highly competitive and or win in this spot. Jockey and trainer combo hit 20%, and the trainer has had a lot of success over the last 365 days. 2 nice tune-up works and prep for this race tells me this one is going to be fresh off the layoff. I will note though, if perhaps moved to dirt, this one has a second and only try on the off-going, which is why we will stay with this one. So if perhaps moved off, we will stay with the number 3, May tie one on as our top selection. Number 5 is Warley, 6-1 on the line. This one won at first asking off a 5-month layoff over the Mountaineer turf surface. What's even more impressive is this one received a 97 speed figure for that effort. Again, although on the turf, it gets a little bit bloated, but I think the 97 is really, really impressive. You know this one will take a step forward off the long layoff, being second out. Trainer and jock connect with winners at a 28% clip, and that can't be forgotten. I will note, if moved off the turf, as we did with our top selection, this one has hit the board in 3 or 4 starts on the off-going, so I think that could be a vital key for this one, that being the number 7, Warley. Lastly, I took a look at the number 11, American Sailor, as a long shot. The ability of this one is endless, and as a handicapper or a backer of certain horses or whatnot, this is the type of horse that you just keep going back to because you know the ability of this one and it just keeps letting you down, but we'll be suckered in again for this one. I pray it gets moved off the turf in the 11 American Sailor's case, just because of the fact this one does its best running in the mud. In 3 starts over the off-going, this one has 2 wins and a second, with the best speed figure this one has ever achieved at a 102 at Suffolk. That 102 will destroy this field, I believe, and we can also confirm this isn't an outlier, as this one topped 100 in January this year, 3 races back. So it's not like that race was just completely blowing their wad. So this one definitely has a chance as a long shot. So in the 4th race, the Optional Claimer 25K going 5 furlongs on the scheduled turf course, we landed on the number 3, May tie one on. Number 7, Warley in second, and then the number 11, American Sailor in third. Race 5, James W. Murphy Stakes, $100,000 purse, going 1 mile on the turf. This is a really hard race to handicap here. A lot of horses with little to no experience on the turf, and or the turf attempts that they did have were absolutely horrible. And I landed on the number 3, Tap Daddy, at 12-1 on the morning line. This colt has been beaten by 2 horses I'm pretty sure everybody knows, that being Flame Away and Analyze It. So we can verify this one has some class to him. Also, the turf course at Keeneland is different. As we mentioned before in our previous show with Churchill Downs, When horses don't run well on the yielding turf course at Keeneland, it's not that big of a deal. A lot of times you can just throw that race out, and that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do here. I think we toss it out. Key races at Churchill Downs and Kentucky Downs over the yielding turf course. And then if you say, well, if it's not ran on dirt, well, let me just tell you, we can key the race, the Bourbon, in the slop at Keeneland, where this one was only beaten by a head by Flame Away. Whatever the case, turf, dirt, this horse shows up. Hot Jock in Santana. You can count me in for the number 3, Tap Daddy, 12-1 on the morning line as our top selection in the 5th. Number 4, Black Stetson will be the speed in this 1 mile event. Tried grass for the first time in career in a stakes race at Aqueduct and took them wire to wire. Stretching out to a mile is interesting, but the trainer Guerrero knows he has put this horse in a weaker spot to find out what this horse is really made of. This one does have some previous dirt form, including an 86 speed figure and a maiden score at Parks over the offgoing in case this one gets moved off the turf. I do think this one, the number 4, Black Stetson, very interesting in this spot. Number 9, 3-1 morning line. Colt and Mississippi is a Pletcher Johnny V connection as well. Is like I said, the 3-1 morning line favorite. Just like the 4 though, this one tried grass for the first time and responded nicely. Should improve second off the layoff. The connections in itself can never be thrown out in any race, that being Pletcher with Johnny V. I will say, if moved to the dirt though, this one didn't respond well in the only try in the offgoing. So if perhaps you want to try and beat this connection, who should be at an extremely short price if it doesn't get scratched, if it gets moved to the offgoing dirt course, I think is going to be a big play against. But if perhaps on the turf, number 9, Colton, Mississippi will be a runner that I think has a big chance. So again, in the 5th race, the James W. Murphy Stakes, $100,000 purse going 1 mile on the turf. I landed on the number 3, Tap Daddy at 12-1, followed by the number 4, Black Stetson, and then the number 9, Colt and Mississippi. Race 6, allowance 52,000 going 1 mile, 1/16 on the dirt. I really like number 7, Uncle Mojo, who will be our top selection, is though at 6-5 on the morning line. Although not much value, this one has speed figures that just crush every other horse in this contest. A 104 speed figure 2-back against Allowance Company at Keeneland is just the best in this field and can't be dismissed. The slop shouldn't be much of an issue for this one, and the fact that this one has so much clash should be enough to get the job done at a really short price. If perhaps you're looking for something different, which I will be, I looked at the number 3, Bovuk. This one has wins over the offgoing, 2 for 2 to be exact. Although both speed figures that day weren't great, the fact that this one has so much success over the off track is good enough for us to be interested. This gelding ran one of its best races lifetime last out, receiving a 92 speed figure, and another improve could be an interesting horse if perhaps the number 7, Uncle Mojo, does not fire. I will note, this trainer has had extreme success. I believe, I don't have it in front of me, I think 46% win rate over this track. So that is the number 3, Bovuk. Here in the 6th, I did circle the number 7, Uncle Mojo. I will give the number 3, Bovuk, a look as well in the 6th. Allowance 52,000 going 1 mile, 1/16. Race 7. The last race that we'll cover in part 1 here. Again, if you want to hear my selections for the Preakness, make sure you check out part 2, races 8 through 14. We'll be covering those as well. But for race 7, the Dixie Stakes, $250,000 purse going 1 mile, 1/16. Also scheduled for the turf. Tough race to decipher. I did land on the number 7, World Approved. Unbeatable speed figures have raced all over, and this one has raced all over the country. This even money favorite on the morning line is far superior in this field. 11 of 12 lifetime races has had a 110 plus speed figure, in which it's just unmatchable to any horse in this field. I promise you, Cassie will not run this horse if the turf is sketchy and or off the turf. So please be aware if perhaps you hear that this is off the turf. If perhaps this horse is running, I would definitely play against at a short price. If on the turf, I would be maybe a little bit leery. I would maybe check some of the earlier turf races if they do run those as well to see what kind of condition the turf course is actually in. But we will circle the number 7 just because speed figure wise, it's unmatchable to any horse in this group. That is the 7 World Approval. Number 2, Unbridled Wand, and why not? 10-1 on the line. This one has races from last year where this one earned speed figures over 105. What I really like about this one is the trainer's 29% with stakes runners, and I don't believe he would put this one here on the layoff without thinking this one has a shot. Where this one will be strongest is if Pimlico decides the turf is unraceable and not credible and not equally raceable. This one, if it gets moved to the dirt, is 4 for 4 on the wet going while also being 7 for 8 at the distance. Watch out for this race, this horse. If perhaps gets moved off the turf, that is the number 2 Unbridled Wand at 10-1. Number 6, Just Howard at 12-1 definitely needs a look as well. This one has put together 4 straight 100 plus speed figures, although running 9th last out. What I really like is the fact that this one for Grand Motion gets some class relief from the ridiculous field at Del Mar late last year. And the ridiculous and incredible work tab shows me that this one will be good to go and will give top effort today in this spot. I will also note that Motion and Ortiz, when they get together, hit at 20%. A lot of those in stake races like these. I also believe with how Motion set up the works, I think he'll tell Ortiz to go to the lead in this race with no speed. Should be possibly, I guess it should be, but quite possibly could be walking the dog out here in extremely slow fractions on the turf and could be the one to catch when they run down the lane. In race 7, again, the last race that we'll cover here in part 1, the Dixie Stakes $250,000 purse going 1 mile, 1/16 on the turf. I landed on the number 7 World Approval only and only if this is on the turf. Only and only if. Please, let's get that clear. Only and only if this is on the turf. Number 7 World Approval will get our selection. If off the turf, I do like the number 2 Unbridled Wand at 10-1, followed by the number 6 Just Howard. For us, in the 7th, it's the 7, 2, 6. Please, again, as we said before, that was part 1. Please check out part 2. We'll cover the Preakness Stakes and I'll give you my selections. Let's go ahead and click over to that and let's check that out.